Welcome to part 4 of a seemingly never-ending series of me trying to build an epoxy slab table with absolutely no idea what I'm actually doing. Let's go ahead and get this over with. While I apply the finish to the bottom of this table all by myself, I would like to apologize to all 13 of my loyal viewers, because this video is way overdue. I left you guys hanging for over a month with a partially built table. It was mainly just because I lost motivation for crafting video content. The first 2 videos got a decent amount of views, but then the third one tanked, leaving me wondering why I even put the effort into making these videos. This grief at a low view count led me to wondering if all I was searching for was internet clout and recognition, which made me feel like a loser. That is not where happiness is found. No, my friends, true happiness is found in flipping over heavy tables all alone, and in standing for hours on end, sanding a weird-looking piece of wood. I originally was going to do all the sanding of this slab with my Craftsman 5-inch random orbital sander. But then I realized that I would probably grow a full beard and go completely bald by the time I was done with that. So I picked up this portable belt sander from Harbor Freight to assist with some of the coarser grit sanding. Even so, this task took a ridiculously long time. I now understand why all woodworkers dislike sanding with a passion. The only reason I didn't share that passion until now was that I had never taken on a project large enough that you needed to spend an entire day just sanding. Once I had sanded it to about 100 grit, I could come back through and fill all these tiny cracks and gaps with CA glue. Notice how I am using Titebond glue instead of Starbond glue, which is far more popular for CA glue amongst woodworkers. That is because I'm a silly man and refuse to use Starbond unless they sponsor me and send me free glue in return for a product shout out to the 3 people who actually watch my videos. That sounds like a lofty goal, and it is. But if I'm honest, it sounds a whole lot more achievable than me actually being able to build a table when the largest fine woodworking project I had taken on before said table was maybe a big cutting board. One thing that I always add to my cutting boards is a slight round over to all of the edges. It gives the boards a lot more of an elegant and refined look, rather than just having clunky, sharp, square corners. So, I decided to add a round over to the table too. Usually, using the router to do this would be a bit scary, but after using that monster of a straight bit in part 2 to flatten the slab, this was like child's play. Similar to how eating a single leaf of lettuce is simple work after devouring all the kale in the local supermarket. This project really had more sanding than 45 sticks of deodorant inside a washing machine, so I'll stop showing sanding clips and instead, let's start on the finish. Now, just because I can't seem to get enough of these wonderful experiences battling with epoxy in this project, I decided to take advantage of the opportunity and use it one more time, this time as a tabletop finish. I'm using Total Boat tabletop epoxy for this. Not that I would ever recommend going anywhere near epoxy of any kind ever anyway, but just in case anyone was curious. This doesn't work. I have hours of sanding out of me again. How does this work? This should not work. I am ruined. One thing I noticed about the tabletop epoxy was that it was a lot thicker and more syrupy than the deep pour epoxy I have spent way too much time around. I was a little bit nervous something was wrong with it, but in hindsight, I think that's its normal form and I just wasn't accustomed to it. It is easy to observe my nervous and extremely doubtful attitude in the tone of my voice and the words that I am saying while pouring the top coat. I was really dreading the idea of something going wrong and having to flatten and sand the whole slab once more. However, much to my surprise, nothing went wrong, and it actually seemed to work. I attacked it with a heat gun to pop any surface bubbles, and then spent an entire day out of the shop, waiting for my fate to be decided. There were all these little droplets of tabletop epoxy along the bottom edge of the table, so I attacked them with my random orbital sander. This was a rather tedious process, but my joy due to the fact that the finish had actually worked made it seem like light work. This removal of droplets on the bottom also removed some of the finish, so I applied a few more coats to the bottom of the table just to be safe. And at last, I had crafted a table. The only thing left to do was figure out how to pack up and deliver this thing without doing any damage to it. I picked up a bunch of these moving blankets from Harbor Freight and presumed to entomb and cocoon the table while running all around the room like some sort of buffoon in bloom. It was a bit strange to think that I had come to the end of my journey with this table. I believe that the whole project took me around 3 months from idea to actual delivery, which is significantly longer than I had originally assumed and promised it would take. Even though the whole task was heartily overwhelming at times, and involved at least 3 instances of staying up all night working on it, I'm glad I did it. If I were to do it again, I think I would only make 1 table at a time rather than trying to make 3 tables at a time. The other 2 I made I didn't videotape, but were essentially smaller versions of this one. However, diving headfirst into this build was the only way I would ever build up the confidence to take on larger projects. And if it wasn't for this project, I could very well be stuck in a ditch of making pens and cutting boards for the rest of my life, always feeling like my tools and skills couldn't handle anything larger. But I think this project proves that even with no idea what I'm doing and a decent set of tools, I can fake having woodworking skills for long enough to actually make something that looks decent. Now hopefully the table doesn't snap in half and make me look like a big hypocrite. Delivery for this thing actually went better than I could ask or imagine. My filming skills, however, were subpar, even for someone as bad at filming as I am. My brother came in clutch in helping me carry in and set this thing up. Enjoy this cinematic shot of a water fountain as we attach the legs and flip it over. And that is the end of the road for my first ever table build. If you watched the whole series through, thanks so much for your attention and interest. Feel free to leave any sort of comment you like down below. I really enjoy responding to them. I am working on a very speedy full build time-lapse with no talking, just woodworking and maybe a bit of music, which should come out on July 19th, 2023. I will leave a link to the full build playlist in the top right corner if you would like to watch the whole thing come together. I have several project videos in the works right now that I'm pretty excited about, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, go slide down the steps in a record crate.